Hmm. Yeah. One more time for the people in the back. All righty. Let's find this out. All righty, we are live and welcome. Welcome again. I want to let me change my view to speaker view because otherwise that just looks weird. All right. So, and I'm hearing myself talk. Okay.
Is
All
it a
right.
uh
Yeah, I'm here because I have it pulled up on my browser. Anyway,
okay.
so today we are talking about creating a quick marketing strategy. And just before we started recording, Nate was just explaining exactly why we even want this quick marketing strategy that we are using based on the information that we have so far. So, but before we get going, let me tell you, we are Nate and Simone. We talk all things marketing here. It's all about marketing strategy. It's not just about attracting your leads and nurturing them. It's about full client life cycle. Um, it's about making sure that your business is sustainable for the long haul. If you like what we talk about on this channel, subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends, share this with somebody, like the video, help us with the algorithm so that we can reach more people, right? Because I think more entrepreneurs need to know this stuff. We were talking earlier about how so many people are just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. They're working hard and they may be making some money, but it could be a lot easier if they leverage the tools and information that is available to them. So, hey, how you doing, Nate?
I'm good, I'm good. Happy New Year
Awesome.
almost.
Happy New Year. Happy New
12
Year.
hours to go. Less than 12 hours.
Yeah, pretty much 12 hours to go.
Yeah.
All right. So, before you forget, tell us what why we want to do a quick marketing strategy.
Well, it's deceptively simple. Let me share my screen real quick.
Okay.
This is an example of what I'm talking about here. Quick marketing strategy. This we're going to make this available in the recording. But
Yeah.
this is a
You'll be
worksheet
able to
that,
download this
yeah,
when this video goes up.
yeah. So basically, it is a place where now let me preface this by saying that this quick marketing strategy you have already done a lot of the footwork that is involved here. And so ideally, you have already documented a ton of information up to this point about your marketing strategy, and you're able to just fill this in with the information. So
Right. So you
basically,
already like know
yeah,
what market you're in,
yep,
what makes you unique about your market, um,
yes,
what your core values are, all that stuff. And
yeah,
you already know what you're offering, obviously. And
yes,
so you know kind of who else is in this market that could be competitors to you, right?
yeah, exactly. This document is a form of sales, and I would even say marketing enablement. So you're
Mhm.
able to share quickly the information that is most pertinent to your company, that explains where you are in the market that you are in. So you have your company name, location, the industry, and then you're drilling down. So you have the broad industry, you have the total number of competitors in the broad industry, you have subcategory of the broad industry that you're in, the single category within that broad category, and then figuring out the total number of competitors in the single category. So, for example, our broad industry actually would be marketing, right? And then we figure out in our areas, right, in our respective areas, the total number of competitors in that broad industry. Now, nationwide, I mean, we're talking millions, right? That's millions
Right.
would consider themselves to be in the marketing industry. So huge.
That's true.
Now, a subcategory within that would be consulting, right?
Well,
So what we do, it could be considered consulting. Within that within that subcategory, we can drill down even further and look at the single category, which would be specifically strategy. So
mhm.
consulting about marketing strategy. Um, and so that, just makes it smaller and smaller number, right, that you're actually competing against in that case. And I would venture to guess with marketing strategy almost being a afterthought, as it were, that the total number of competitors in that single category, wherever you are, is going to be pretty low. So, which is good for us, right? But
Yeah.
um, but
It's
so
good
this is
that
what I'm
there's
talking
some
about.
out there, which
Yeah,
which shows that there is a market,
for sure.
and that there are companies who are willing to invest in strategy, but there's not
Yeah,
so many that we are um, that we're just kind of in a giant ocean and nobody can see us, this little speck out there.
exactly. And what this document allows you to communicate quickly who you are in the market, um, and gets everyone on the same page. So you can use this when it comes to, you know, creating campaigns, any kind of marketing output that you are putting out there to help draw in your ideal customers. But then also you can use this as an internal communication of sorts. A sales battle card, right? So you can equip this you can equip your sales force with something like this, so that everyone knows, okay, this is who we're up against, um, and these are our key advantages and disadvantages in the market. And you can, from if you know the advantages and disadvantages, then you can also field any kind of customer objections, for example.
Absolutely.
That becomes a
Absolutely.
lot simpler to a certain
Yeah,
degree. Um, and when someone says, "Well, have you heard of this company? They do something like that." Well, yes, ma'am, we have. And then you could talk intelligently about how you differ from them. So a key portion of this is, your positioning, right? Um,
absolutely.
so yeah, so it's sales, marketing enablement, but then it's also an internal form of communication to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So it's pretty useful.
Very cool. So we're going to give that to you free as a download. So you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
do
yeah.
some of your own planning and strategizing for your own marketing. Very
Absolutely.
cool.
So I guess we can maybe talk about the different components of that and
Sure.
why that sheet, is the way it is. That might be handy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we want to talk about so first, what's first on the list
Well, the
to
first one,
talk
like I
about?
said, the first thing would be market position, right? So you've already figured out before this what your positioning is, right? And so this should be kind of like, oh, well, yeah, I already know that, right? But um, why knowing why market positioning matters in your business, um, and your unique selling points, USP, and any kind of gaps that may exist within your current position, and how to improve that. And hopefully, before you get to this point where you're filling this out, you've already sorted through that, right?
Right.
But we can kind of do a quick, you know, um, what for, I guess, in that case. Um, so market positioning, um, we've talked about this in previous recordings. It's not just about where you are in relation to. your competition, although that is key, right? You need to know, you need to know, you need to have something that you are against, right? And so
Mhm.
it's not just about price, excuse me, when it comes to your
Right.
competition, the positioning. So, you know, yeah, I think I mentioned in a previous video that one of the worst things that I've ever heard is, we are one of the probably I would say most common things that people say. Well, this is our USP. Our USP is we offer the best quality at the lowest prices. Well, you and everyone else, right?
Right.
But what is that? What is
That's
that?
not necessarily unique. Nobody else is going to
Yeah.
say, well, we offer terrible quality at the highest prices, right?
Right, right. And quality, the idea of that, what does that even mean? Best quality. Like
Right.
how do you assess that? Um, it's not immediately apparent, you don't really set yourself in opposition to anything in that case. Um, and thinking of, like I think you mentioned, thinking of if you can say the opposite about what you're saying, then you might be onto something when it comes to your position, right?
Right. And then we also talked about how it's not necessarily better, but different. You're different. You don't necessarily have to say, oh, I'm better than this person, I'm better than that person, I'm better than this, or this company or that company or the other company. I'm
Yeah,
different. I do things differently.
exactly.
And that difference may be the key to certain customers.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I saw something yes the other day. It was just like a YouTube short, and I don't know what show it was from, but it was British. Anyway, it was one guy sitting on one side of the table, and he puts a product on the table, which is this clear plastic cup filled with candy with a domed lid. And he says, "Is this is your product, correct?" And the lady across from him says, "Yes, that's my product." And he asks her to describe it, and she says, "Oh, well, it's something along the lines of, well, it's interesting, it's creative, it's fun, it's unique." And he says, "It's unique." And then he proceeds to pull out two more from her competitors that look exactly the same. It's just a clear cup filled with candy in wrappers.
Wow.
And all of a sudden you could just see her just like, well, but it's got a domed lid. That was that was that's all she could, that was the differentiator. That was it. So that kind of thing, you're running into trouble, if you're not able to really truly
Right.
make yourself set yourself apart and differentiate yourself from the competition in that case.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
Okay. So
so
so once you understand how important it is to have your positioning figured out, the next step up is we look at the competition. And
it's funny. Um, I've been I've been in so many like Christian business spaces where coming out of gospel music, and everybody likes to say, "Oh, well, we're not in competition. We're all working together. We all love each other." But sometimes it's good to have competition.
yeah,
And it's good to evaluate, to look at somebody else who may be doing something that you want to do. Maybe they're doing it better.
yeah,
And that's not to say that just that because you have competition or that you see another company or another business as competition, that it's a bad thing. It just means that you now have kind of a metric to measure yourself against a little bit, right? And
yeah,
helps you to position yourself. And I believe that having competition helps you to be better, because if somebody is doing something better than what you're doing, then I feel like that's good incentive for you to come up higher, I believe.
yeah. And the whole uh, economy in which we live, is driven by competition, right? This is why there are actual laws against being anti-competitive. Like the whole thing with Google recently, where the government said, people can't compete, so you got to break some stuff up here. Um, that's you know, competition is healthy. It's good for the consumer. It's good for the producers. All around. Not necessarily a bad thing. And it's interesting. Even the most like obscure types, well, not obscure, but I don't know. Like, so as an example, I was talking to a client once, and they were a nonprofit. Nonprofits, believe it or not, have competition. It's interesting and it's strange to think about that all of these people who are in the community, ostensibly to help the local residents to some extent, are actually competing against each other for the same people. So in this case, one of the ways that my client was competing was like there's at least three entities in a small town that collect food, and they have a food bank. There's three separate food banks here in this town, 10,000 people or whatever, and there's three separate food banks. So technically they're all competing, right? Because all of them want to help the same group of people through the same means. But it's kind of like it's a bizarre way to think about competition in that case, but it's a competition.
That's interesting. I wonder if they also compete to have the best food.
Well, certainly, yeah, for sure. I would imagine so. Like some people probably like, oh, well, they only have canned goods, but this one over here, they actually have fresh greens, like,
Right, right.
like,
You know, um uh and okay, this one or maybe there's two of them that have canned goods, but theirs over here are always expired, where theirs over here
yeah, yeah,
they have better stuff. And so
yeah,
then you end up the people who are in need of the food bank
yeah,
are going to the ones where they think there's more,
yeah.
there's better food.
But it's good for those that are in need because they have a wide selection, right? They
They
don't
have a
have
selection,
to go to
absolutely.
just the one place that only gives canned goods, right? They can actually go to
Right.
another place that has fresh
That
greens
has some
and
fresh fruits.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fresh
Um,
fruit, healthy stuff.
so yeah,
Well,
that's
that's
it's interesting,
interesting.
and they're all serving basically the same segment of the population, So
Yeah. But then I imagine that they also maybe compete over donation dollars too,
exactly, yep,
because I can
that's right.
imagine that um, somebody who wants to donate is probably not going to donate to all three food banks. They're going to pick one that they feel like, I don't know, maybe meets their values the most, or
Yeah, could
he
be.
gets to them faster or whatever.
Yeah. And so what is the differentiator at that point? How are you defining yourself in relation to all those other choices? That's where it becomes important for even nonprofits to know this kind of stuff, right? So
Absolutely.
anyway, let's see here. Having well, I guess we kind of went over pros and cons of fewer competitors in your space. If you have the fewer number of competitors you have, the more likely the Justice Department is to look at you. So that's a downside.
Yeah, that's a downside, especially if you're huge. You're a
Yeah,
huge company like Google or Microsoft. Microsoft had this problem. I actually
yeah,
heard, um, I actually heard from, I'm forgetting the guy's name, but he was former CEO of Google. I think that was him. But he talked about how sometimes like these companies, they get really large, but they also have their own fears, and they miss out on opportunities because like Microsoft got so large and they ended up being sued and had major antitrust suit, right? Because they were dominating the market in operating systems and software. Um, and so, the government's like, okay, if there's not enough competition, you need to break up, you need to stop shipping out Internet Explorer with every machine you send out. And because of that, they had a bit of trepidation, I guess, getting into the internet market. And so that allowed Google room to come in and kind of take over.
Wow. If things had been different.
Yeah,
uh
imagine that.
yeah, I think about back when Netflix attempted to sell itself to was it Blockbuster?
The Blockbuster, yeah. Yeah.
They said no
And it's
way.
interesting because it's almost like they were almost competitors, but they were doing things a bit differently. I mean,
Yeah,
they're basically competitors, right? They're
yes,
both offering rented movie media to the public,
yes.
but one is doing it online and the other one is you come into the brick and mortar store and get your videos. That's really interesting. Like one is in trouble, but they're innovative and they're small and scrappy, and they're like, okay, let's just sell ourselves to our competitor, basically,
Yeah.
and we both can survive.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and Blockbuster was banking on people not wanting to stay home instead of like getting in their car, driving to a physical location to get a physical object that they then
Yeah,
take back to their home and put in their physical machine.
right,
They were banking on people not wanting this done virtually, and
right.
also on they were banking on the infrastructure not being good enough to support such a thing.
Mhm.
I think,
That's
and
really
so
interesting.
yeah.
I think there's a lesson to be learned in that, especially in the American market, is that we like to be lazy. We like to do things easy.
Path of least resistance.
Exactly, the path of least resistance. Like if there's a snowstorm outside and I'm about to be snowed in for the next 3 days, why am I gonna get my coat and my boots on and everything, go out to Blockbuster, which might be crowded because everybody else is thinking the same thing,
Yeah,
to pick up a few videos because I'm gonna be in the house for a while,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
when
You
I
could
can just have
pick
it.
up germs there and get sick during that whole
it
time, or share your own
exactly,
germs to other people. Like
exactly. Rather than maybe either going out to my mailbox, which might be
yeah,
downstairs or at the end of the drive, you
yeah.
know, um, or
That's right,
streaming directly to my
because Netflix
computer.
was actually mailing them at
It
that
was
point. Yeah,
mailing the DVDs to your
yeah,
house, right, at
yeah,
the time. So it's like, why would I? The the ease we want easy. We
yeah,
want fast, we want easy. And yeah, I think, and that's really interesting. That's a principle when it comes to competitiveness.
yeah,
Who is it? I think it's Alex Hormozy that said, if you want to beat the competition, do it faster.
yeah. I
Do
thought you
the
were going to
same
say
thing
make it easy
faster.
for people to choose you.
But
Yeah,
another guy, marketing guy that I like to listen to, Dan Henry, he said, do it fast and easy. People like
yeah,
fast and easy.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
if you can do it faster, you can do it easier or make it easier for them. It might be harder for you,
yeah,
but it's easier for the client, for the
yeah.
customer.
Exactly,
You win.
exactly. So let's.
That's
I want to
interesting.
do. Yeah, I want to do. Touch on a couple of things here when it comes
Okay.
to um, researching the competitive landscape. How how in the world do we figure out um, how many are in our category? How many? How do we even go about this? Where do we go?
It's interesting that there are companies that we already know about, depending on what our current landscape is. But then there's also tools that we can use to find out.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of companies out there that we just don't even know about.
Yeah.
You know,
One going
so
off of that, one interesting method that I found recently within the last few months is to talk to your local small business development center.
mhm.
They have access to very powerful, very expensive tools that you can actually use to your advantage as a small business owner, that will allow you to assess the competition. They have information on every business in your state. Um, and then they can drill that down based on categories.
Awesome.
So that is a good resource, I would say. Check that out.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And then another key, so you can do a SWOT analysis, right? To compare yourself against a theoretical, competitor, or maybe you have somebody in mind that you already know, and so you can kind of, assess yourself there. There's also a tool called Porter's Five Forces, if you're familiar with that one. And
I haven't heard of that one.
it's a framework that allows you to analyze your business in relation to your competition, and it looks at the competitive intensity within a given industry. And so it looks at competitive rivalry, the threat of new entrants into the industry. So that in my MBA class, we talked about the barriers to entry, right? So that's kind of um, one of those things. If you're in an industry that has high barriers to entry, that means that there's probably going to be low competition, relatively speaking, because it's difficult to get in.
Right.
Whereas, like, digital marketing, for example, is extremely low barrier to entry. So that's why there's so many
Right.
digital marketers,
Right.
Um,
It's very difficult to start an airline, from
yes,
scratch, right?
yes. Oh, that's why
But building websites from
what,
your
10
laptop
countries
at
can
home,
actually, only 10
very
countries can
fast.
build planes, or something like that, because of the
Yeah,
sheer number of, providers that it takes for all the different components and
all
all
the
this.
parts,
And yeah,
exactly.
extremely
Exactly.
high standards too. But
I won't be starting an airline tomorrow before.
no, 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 no. And then you also look at the bargaining power of the suppliers in the market, the bargaining power of the buyers, and then the threat of substitute products. So it's a little more in-depth and detailed analysis that you can do. And you can Google Porter's Five Forces. You'll find
Okay,
worksheets and that kind of stuff there. So
check that out.
those are some actionable tips for you.
Yeah, don't say we never gave you nothing.
That's right. So once you've figured out the competition, the next step is you're going to align your strategy with the needs and the beliefs of your market.
Target
So
market.
yeah, so you need to clarify those beliefs. Um, and so why is it crucial that we align with the needs, preferences, behaviors of our target audience? So, what do you think?
Well, um, if you are trying to sell your products or services, you want to sell to somebody who actually wants them, right? And so, but in order for them to want it, they have to know, they have to feel that need. They have to know that they want it. I listen to this one mentor all the time. He says to lead from the market. So let the market tell you what it is they want, what their needs are, um, and sometimes they have needs and they have wants, but their beliefs may hold them back from even reaching out to get it, and so you have to address those beliefs. There are lots of what do you call them, limit people have limiting beliefs. There are psychological triggers and psychological just um, just as things that we we as humans and we as people who grow up in this country are kind of taught to believe as we're growing up. And so sometimes that makes it difficult for us to step out of our comfort zone and to try something new and to go after something that we know is actually going to help us, but we hold back. And so knowing all of these things is very helpful in addressing your market, providing the services that you provide, um, and speaking to those the beliefs that they have and the assumptions that they have and the objections that they may have. So
Yeah.
you can't sell to somebody who doesn't want what it is you're offering. So you have to
Yeah.
know that first. What are their
Exactly.
problems? Are you actually solving a problem that they know that they have?
And what how you are thinking about your target audience, it may be it may be biased. You may have certain beliefs about your target audience that are just not true. And putting them down on paper, really thinking them through, and then testing it is absolutely crucial.
Absolutely. One of the things that my friends and I have been talking about lately is doing podcasts and interviewing people who are in your target market, because a few of my friends are new to this. They haven't been running businesses for very long, and so they don't know specifically what the problems are in their target market. They don't know how their market, their ideal client thinks about these problems. They don't know necessarily the objections that they have. And so my suggestion is to go and talk to them. Um,
Yeah.
and having a podcast kind of makes it where you have that accountability, like, oh, I have to put out a new show, let me go talk to somebody. Right, so
Yeah.
you're having that conversation and you're having it in a public setting, um but hearing your ideal clients speak to you in their own language about the problems that they're having, about the solutions that they're seeking, about their own limiting beliefs that have maybe stopped them from getting this solution in the first place or until now, um, where the gaps are in their knowledge, right? Maybe they haven't sought anything out because they didn't know the solution was there, that it was available,
Yeah.
or even at a price that was a reasonable investment in their minds, right? So
There was I just saw recently um that back in the 90s, I think it was, Nike did a commercial where they actually went to an African tribe that traditionally went barefoot.
mhm,
Okay, they never wore shoes. And they decided, hey, you know what? We're going to use this as our marketing campaign. We're going to go out to this African tribe that traditionally, culturally, goes barefoot.
mhm,
Um, and we're going to slap our shoes on them. We're going to take photos of them, and we're going to, translate what they're saying, and make a marketing campaign out of this. Well, they did this, right? They had these. They let them wear their shoes around, and they recorded one or several of them. I don't remember how many actually said it, but they recorded them saying something. And given the fact that there were only about 200,000 speakers of this particular language, Nike felt
mhm,
that they would probably be safe in going ahead and translating it into English as having them say, just do it. But in
mhm,
reality, apparently there was a linguist that knew the language and heard them say
mhm.
this on the commercial, and it translated to roughly something like, "I hate these things. Get them off my feet." And so that he called them out on this, and they had to retract the campaign and everything and issue an apology. This is
Oh my goodness. They figured, yeah, nobody's gonna know. Like only
yeah,
these, there's nobody
yeah,
speaks this language. Nobody's gonna
yeah,
know, right? Oh my
yeah. This
goodness.
is this is where, something got lost in translation, literally, with between the product creator and their market, right? In that case.
Wow. Wow.
Don't let that happen to you.
Yeah.
But
This was
anyway,
clearly the wrong market
yeah, yeah.
for this product.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, so it's an interesting idea. And so here, think about I'm going to encourage you to think about an assumption that you have about your target market,
Mm.
and tell us about it on social media. Drop a line in the YouTube chat here,
Yeah,
whatever.
absolutely. Let
And
us know.
yeah,
'Cause that is so true. I remember we had a meeting with a lady who owned a bakery, and we had her go out and talk to her target market and find out like what they wanted, what their desires are. And here she was thinking that one of their primary one of their primary motivations for purchasing certain catering services was was price. And it turned out price was not at all on their minds. They wanted to like not do any of the work, right? Can we just hire you and you just take care of it? Like we already have all this other stuff to do. We don't want to do this too, but we want to have a good event. We just don't want to be the ones doing anything, right? And it was a surprise. She wasn't expecting that answer. So, that this is why like going out and actually speaking to your target market is so
yeah,
crucial because they're going to tell you things um that you may not be thinking at all.
yeah. And marketing, specifically, um, you have so many that are tuned into selling their particular tactic that they have. Like you have digital marketers, especially, they have website designers, so they sell websites. Like every business needs a website, right?
So everybody needs a website, right?
Yeah, everybody needs Google Ads. Everybody
Right.
needs SEO without really talking to the business and finding out exactly what their motivations are, what their goals are, what's actually
Yeah.
going to suit them best.
What's interesting is that I've learned that recently to really speak to the market and find out from them what's important to them based on how they run their business. So I've been working with a client recently who, for me, email marketing, email nurturing series is a big thing, right? It's how you stay in contact with your leads, with your clients. Keep everybody warm. You're sending out emails on a consistent basis, regular nurturing, that kind of thing, right? So I'm working with this client, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we don't even need email addresses. We meet them on Instagram, and from there it's just text. We text everybody, and if we're doing follow up, we're going to do it by text. If they need to reach out to us, they're going to do it by text, right? Everything is through text." And so that just kind of it really opened my mind a bit. It's like everybody doesn't, I still do. I build funnels for people. Everybody doesn't need a funnel in the way that I think of funnels, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because their business just may be different. So yeah, so you have all these digital marketing companies out there, and they're going to tell you, well, you need to set up SEO, and you need to build a website, and you need to do an email marketing series or email nurture series. That's not necessarily true depending on how you run your business and how you interact with your leads and clients.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no really, it's the difference between having a solution in search of a problem versus a problem in
Mm,
search of a solution, right? So
absolutely.
that's the difference.
Absolutely. And
Um,
marketing isn't cookie cutter.
exactly. Yeah. I was going to say
You
that
know,
too.
this isn't a one size fits all type of
Yeah.
deal, right?
All right. So now you've identified your um, market position, customer beliefs. The next step is creating a focused action plan. So
Mm.
how do we what are we talking about when it comes to an action plan here? How do we prioritize our actions?
Well, it comes down to determining what needs to be done in the short term, what needs to be done in long term, um, and what actions are actually going to move the needle. There
Yeah.
are things that we tend to do as people and as companies that because we have a lot of time, that we're doing a lot of different things when a lot of the things that we do are not don't move the needle at all and don't really have any impact on where our on us getting to our goal. So we really do need to prioritize like what is it that goes on our to-do list, on our priority list that's actually going to move the needle um,
Yeah.
in the short term versus the long term. What do we need to create habits around, based
Yeah.
on our long-term goals, and what needs to be taken care of right now in order to, to move us forward.
Yeah. I saw somebody, and I didn't look further into it, but I thought that this really stuck out in my brain. They said something to the effect of being busy is a form of being lazy. So
Woo,
you
that
can
is
be
kind of brain
busy just for
breaking,
the sake of being busy,
just for the sake
and
of being busy.
in which case you are ignoring all the other like stuff that you could be doing, which is,
Mhm.
have more of an impact, but you're just kind of like doing busy work, right?
Yes, yes. Um, Myron Golden says it like a lot of people, they continue to move their bodies in order to avoid using their minds. Right?
Yeah.
You know, you're
Yeah.
continually doing all this stuff and you're doing this and doing that and doing the other thing when it's not really getting you anywhere.
Yeah.
Instead of let me stop, let me take some time and let me think and let me strategize. How can this be better? How
I
can, how can I leverage? How can I, come up with some strategies and some tools that will make this whole process better rather than just let me just keep spinning my
yeah.
wheels like I've always been doing.
I suspect that this might have to do with our educational system and how it was set up to
Mm,
prepare us for work in factories. So we would
yeah.
need some kind of a physical output, and
Mm,
the thinking was left to the managers to do, right? Like, or the teachers in that case. Like,
yeah.
you're just there to do something and create the write the answers to the quiz, and that's your
That's
output.
true. That's
Just
true. It's
the
do what you're told.
thinking
And
thinking is not quantifiable. There's no, you
mm,
know, uh, maybe that's what it is. It's not tangible, and so kind of tend to shy away from it to some degree. But I
yeah,
don't know.
that's true.
I have no idea if that's true or not. But
I mean, there's probably some truth in that. Um, I feel like we've been trained to think that um, the busier we are, the more the more we're getting done, and we have a higher standard of work if we're busy.
right,
You know, we're running here and running there. Oh, wow, you must be so important if you're getting like a million calls in an hour and the phone's always ringing and you're always at the laptop working, blah, blah, blah. You're constantly busy. Oh, wow, you must be an important person.
yeah,
when that's not necessarily true. It just means that you're disorganized. It could mean that you're disorganized and you're not leveraging technology or
Yeah.
other people's time and talents to help you to manage things.
Yeah.
Um,
How much of that scrambling around is you trying to remember where you left the thing, right?
looking for stuff. Oh my goodness. How many hours do people waste just looking for stuff
Uh,
because they lost it
I put that person's name down on a scrap of paper, but where did I leave that scrap of paper? You know, like,
in the mound of all this other
yeah,
paper sitting on
yeah,
top of your desk?
uh-huh.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um,
So,
yeah. So yeah, you have to look at the short term, you have to look at the long term, tying it into the goals, you know, of your
mhm,
business, of your personal goals. Hopefully, there probably are some overlap there. Um, you are looking at your broader business objectives, and you know how to mesh that up with the actions that you're taking in your marketing to reach your ideal
absolutely.
customer, you know, to bring in the right customers, which means that you are increasing the odds that you're going to make a sale, which increases the odds that you're going to increase your revenue, et cetera, right? Like these are the things that
Absolutely.
you need to be focused on the most. The 80/20 principle,
Absolutely.
right? Uh,
Yeah. There's a book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. It's called 10x is easier than 2x. He's saying it's easier to get to 10x than it is to get to 2x because when you're trying to 2x, maybe get double the revenue or double the clients or, um, we tend to think, oh, I need to do more of the same of what I'm doing. Whereas if you really think about how do I how do I 10x what I'm doing to get if I'm trying to 10x and I'm trying to get to a particular place, that means there's only going to be a few things that are going to get me there. So all of the busyness, all of the stuff that you're doing, if you're trying to get to 10x, you're going to eliminate 80% of that stuff and maybe keep 20% because the 20% is the only stuff that's going to get you to that 10x place. So it's easier. You're actually it's actually easier to get to 10x because you're eliminating 80% of the busy work that you're doing.
yeah. And that, you know, being laser focused on your goals and where you're headed is becomes crucial. And if you're able to do that, then it's much easier to say no, right? That's the whole what is it, Warren Buffett, uh, who's who said that his favorite word is no.
Oh,
More than
I used to
anything, that's the
listen to Dave
default
Ramsey
answer.
all the time. He would say, "No, no is a complete sentence. It is okay to say no."
uh,
Wow.
yeah. So I guess before we wrap it up here, there's one more element, which is emotions and
Mm,
any kind of subtext that may be involved, which you're not going to experience unless you're actually talking to your customers. I want to point that out real quick. But,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
um, and that is where being in front of a person, talking to them is, you know, beats uh, emailing any day, right?
true.
There's so much more information that you're getting from somebody in that case than you could ever get from you know, some other uh, method, I guess, in that case, right? Um,
It's really interesting.
you, you're able to read between the lines in a conversation,
Mhm,
right? Look at the body language,
true.
and it's much more impactful and immediate. You know, you can get more
In
from
a
that than they'll ever tell you, right?
That's so true. There's a I'm working with somebody and we have a coaching relationship with a client and we're leading the client down the path, right? We have the framework set up. And part of the framework is, you do a particular thing. Well, this client is just making excuses all back and forth. I don't, doesn't want to do it. Just, oh, I got busy, or I got sick, or I got this. I don't just I didn't get around to it. Da, 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 da. They just don't want to do this thing.
Yeah.
And it's eventually we realize, like, it makes her nervous. She doesn't like it. It doesn't, for her, it's not something that she feels very comfortable doing. And so we have to, now that we recognize that, and nervousness definitely is an emotion, and she put a whole lot of excuses and everything around it. But really, it's like, okay, let's get down to brass tacks, right? What's really going on? And yeah, when you get down to that emotion piece, it really does help you to really see your clients. And when you can see your clients and see them from that perspective, it just really helps you um, to serve them at a higher level, you know,
Yeah.
to really tailor what you're doing to their needs.
Yeah. And for us, if
Yeah.
we're talking to a client, um, when we get to the point where we're talking about the um, market position and the competition, it can start to get vulnerable. They can start to feel vulnerable or defensive. You know, it's very easy
Yeah.
for those emotions to kind of crop up, because you think about it. You've invested so much of your time, your blood, sweat, and tears
Yeah.
into your building your business. Like, how can you possibly think that it's not the best in the world, right? So, like,
Right, right. This is your baby. Your baby's the cutest baby that any other baby that's out
right,
there.
right. My little genius. Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Um, but you really have to be able to have thick skin and take a hard look and be honest about, you know, where you are in relation to your
Yeah.
competition. You have to be able to do that. And, for us and what we're doing, talking to somebody, even if it's just doing what we're like, a virtual meeting, that's way better, even still, than like phone call or email, yeah, by far. But
Yeah.
because we can see when somebody is being hesitant, we can
Hmm.
see when, they're really thinking about something. And we know not to blow through that question, because it's obvious that they're taking their time, they're considering it. You know what I mean? Like, there's things like that that you really have to be appreciative of, I guess, and
Yeah.
be
That's true.
non-judgmental. Create a safe space, let people talk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to have that safe space. I remember being in a coaching relationship, and you're talking to the coach, and the coach is saying, yes, we should go down this path, we should do this. And the coach is like looking at my face, and she goes, so what about what I just said is making you nervous and hesitant, right? And she had to be very intuitive, and be paying attention to my reaction,
Yeah,
in order for her to stop and ask me that question, you know?
yeah. And you never know it unless you're actually talking to your customer, right? Or to your
Yeah,
target market, whoever it is. So,
yeah.
all right. So I think that does us for the most part. I guess the thought to leave you with is that um, let's see here. Every step uh, brings you, or excuse me, every step you take brings you closer to a more focused and effective marketing strategy. So, you how the what is it, the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
One bite at a time.
So,
Yeah. So we're going step by step.
yeah,
So, yeah. So doing these steps are setting you on the path to having a more holistic and cohesive marketing strategy for your business. I think doing all these steps, it really forces you to think. I think a lot of people, what they like what Michael Gerber talks about in his book E-Myth Revisited. A
Yeah.
lot of us are tacticians. We think, oh, I can do this. So let me go and start a business and I can do this thing. And we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. But um, in this marketing process, when we think strategically, we step away from the business, right? He likes to talk about working on the business rather than in the business.
Yeah.
When you're taking that 10,000 foot view, you can really see what's going on in the full landscape. Like what is your target market? Who are these ideal clients that I need to be talking to?
Yeah.
You know, why do I need to consider their emotions? Right? Um, who
It's
are
a
my
much
competitors?
different,
What are they doing that's different? Right? And what makes me unique
yes.
and different from them? Right?
It
Um,
it's a much
really
different
sets you up.
perspective being on top of that mountain looking down, seeing the big picture,
Absolutely.
rather than at the bottom of that mountain looking up and seeing all the work you got to do, right?
Right, right, right. Absolutely. So it's a good place to be. So, um, great. What's a good key takeaway from today?
Well, I think if you are ready to gain clarity and build your marketing strategy, make sure that you know use the guide that we're going to include here to create your own quick marketing strategy that you've dutifully thought through all the information prior to filling out, of course. If you need help with figuring out all the other stuff that goes into that quick marketing strategy, by all means, reach out to one of us. Happy to talk and see where you're at and learn more about you and your business and how we can help out. So,
Absolutely. Thank you for watching today, and we will see you next time. Don't forget, let us know what you got out of today in the comments, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.